All right, welcome to our explainer. Today we're diving into a survival guide that has nothing to do with what's in your backpack and everything to do with what's in your head. We're going to talk about how to master the, let's call it the inner committee that takes over when things really fall apart.
So, let's just kick things off with a pretty brutal truth. When things go sideways, I mean truly fundamentally sideways, all your best laid plans, all your hopes, they don't mean a thing. What takes over is your biology. It's the ancient programming that's been running the show for millions of years.
So what this really means is that survival is an inside-out job. It's actually less about what you can do and way more about who you can manage. And as you're about to see, there are three very, very different members of that committee living inside your skull. And trust me, they each have their own agenda.
Okay, so let's meet this committee. To really get a handle on how you're going to react under extreme stress, we're going to use something called the Triune Brain model as our field manual. You can think of this as the official who's who for the voices in your head when the alarms are blaring.
Now this table right here, this shows you the real power dynamic in your head. First up, you've got the oldest member, the lizard. We're talking 500 million years of pure, unadulterated instinct, all focused on survival. Then there's the mammal, your emotional core, completely obsessed with the herd. And finally, the new kid on the block, the human brain, the logical planner. And here is the most critical part. When the crisis hits, this is the first one to get shut down.
All right, so let's put this little committee to the test. Imagine the event happens. Lights go out, for good. In that first, absolutely critical hour, you have to accept a really hard reality. Your logical human brain, it is no longer in charge. The lizard has the wheel now.
There's a name for this. It's called an amygdala hijack. And it's a full-on physiological takeover. Your brain's alarm bell just starts screaming, and it literally pulls the plug on your rational mind to save every last drop of energy for your muscles. Your heart pounds, your vision narrows to a tunnel, and suddenly, simple tasks like dialing a phone become almost impossible.
And this is so important. You cannot reason with a lizard. Telling yourself to just calm down is completely and utterly useless. If you want to get your human brain back online, you need a physical hack. You need a manual override for your own nervous system.
And that override? It's a technique called tactical breathing, or sometimes box breathing. It's a super simple cycle. You inhale through your nose for 4 seconds, hold it for 4, exhale through your mouth for 4, and then hold empty for 4. But you're not just breathing here. You are sending a very specific, very powerful signal. You are physically telling your lizard brain, hey, I am breathing like someone who is safe. You do that long enough, and the lizard actually starts to believe the lie, and it hands control back to your human brain.
Okay, so once you can breathe, you can think. And now you deploy an old espionage concept. Check the mirror. You just stop and you ask yourself a simple question. Am I acting with purpose? Or am I just reacting to the panic all around me? Think about it. If everyone is stampeding for one exit, that's reacting. The human brain stops, takes that breath, and starts looking for the fire escape nobody else has noticed.
So you did it. You wrestled back control. But the crisis is far from over. The lizard and the mammal are still screaming in the background, and they have demands. To prevent another hijack, you have to satisfy their primal needs, and you've got to do it fast, within the first 24 hours. So you have two critical jobs now. First, you've got to calm that lizard by securing your territory. You have to define your den. Even the simple physical act of locking a door sends a powerful "you are safe" signal to that ancient part of your brain. At the exact same time, you have to satisfy the mammal's desperate need for the herd. In a crisis, being alone feels like a death sentence. Your number one priority is the muster, getting your people, your family all together.
This leads to a really fascinating paradox. It turns out the absolute best way to conquer your own fear is to help someone else with theirs. The simple act of helping a neighbor check on their house releases oxytocin, that's the bonding hormone, which is basically a chemical antidote to the stress hormone cortisol. You're effectively tricking your brain into feeling like a leader instead of a victim. It's an incredible hack.
So, you survived day one. Great. But this next phase, it's often way more dangerous. You're now entering what's known as the gray zone. The adrenaline is completely gone, and it's been replaced by this deep psychological exhaustion. This, right here, is where most people break.
See, by about day 3, your lizard brain is just fried from being on high alert for so long. And this leads to something called decisional fatigue. You start making stupid, simple mistakes, forgetting to lock a door, misplacing your tools. Your brain's resources are just totally depleted.
So, to fight this fatigue,
You have to get your human brain to automate survival. What that means is creating routines or standard operating procedures. You don't wake up and decide, should I look for water today? No, the rule is simply, at 8 a.m. we check the rain barrels. By turning survival tasks into a series of habits, you offload all that cognitive burden, and you save your precious mental energy for the real, unexpected problems.
Now, during this first week, your mammal brain is facing a huge choice. That need for a herd can lead to social cohesion, neighbors working together, sharing resources. But as those resources get scarce, that very same instinct can curdle into tribalism. The herd becomes a mob, and the entire world shrinks to a very dangerous us versus them.
This means you have to practice a kind of counter-surveillance on yourself. You have to watch your own slide into tribalism and consciously force your human brain to see neighbors not as competitors for food, but as assets in a mutual aid network. Because let's be honest, a community will always survive longer than a lone wolf.
And this brings us to the ultimate goal here. Because, these skills aren't just for some hypothetical end-of-the-world disaster. They are for achieving what we can call cognitive sovereignty, taking full conscious command of your own mind, especially during the slow-motion catastrophe of modern daily life.
And this is where ancient philosophy gives us an incredibly powerful tool. The Stoics practiced something called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It sounds grim, but they would visualize worst-case scenarios, not to be morbid, but to train the lizard. By imagining the disaster beforehand, when it actually happens, it's not some terrifying new threat, it's a known environment. And that dramatically shortens your startle response and keeps your human brain online way longer.
And you can see these ancient brains at work all around you, every single day. Your boss yelling across the office? That triggers the exact same predator alert in your lizard brain as a tiger in the grass. Social media? Oh yeah, that is hijacking your mammal brain's deep need for herd approval, one like at a time. And all those sensational headlines? They are pure lizard bait, designed specifically to bypass your logical human brain entirely. So the advanced mindset here is to become a ghost. Low profile, high capability. In a crisis, or heck, even in a competitive office, you do not want to be the one with the loudest generator or the flashiest job title. That just makes you a target. You want to be the quiet, helpful person that nobody really notices, while your human brain is 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of everyone else.
And this really reveals the ultimate goal. See, it isn't about crushing your inner lizard and mammal. It's about integrating them. You don't suppress the lizard, you weaponize its heightened senses when you really need them. Use the mammal's intuition to read a room, and use the human's logic to build the plan. True mastery is learning to conduct all 3 parts of your brain like a symphony.
When you boil it all down, survival is a layered challenge. The first day, that's a test of your biology. Can you control your hardware? The first week, that's a test of your psychology. Can you manage your mind? But everything that comes after, true long-term survival, that's a test of your philosophy. It's a test of the core principles you've built to guide your internal committee.
And really, that brings us to the final, most important question. This isn't about some future catastrophe. It's about this very moment. As you're listening to this, just take a breath. Check the mirror. Who's in charge of your committee right now?